Esatto. Hi, David. We just promoted you to the panelist. Can you hear us? Here?
I can. I can.
Okay. We can hear you as well. Thanks.
Cool. I don't have any video or anything yet. It doesn't look like, but maybe that's by design.
Yeah, no video.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Basalt Town Council meeting for November 8th, 2022. I guess it's understandable if people aren't watching in. I think there's some things going on out there. Of course, the polls are getting close to being closed, but we appreciate anyone that is checking in and exercising their civic duty to follow town council on election night. We will start our meeting with a call to order and a roll call. So, Pam, if you'd be so kind, call to.
Absolutely. Let's begin with Lise Huddle.
Present.
Thank you. Ryan Slack.
Here.
Bill Kane.
Here.
Peter Schindler.
Here.
Angela Anderson. Here. Glenn Drummond.
Here.
And David Knight.
Here.
Hi, David. We didn't
There's
expect to
David.
see you.
David.
Thanks for joining us.
Recognize that voice anywhere. So we will begin our order of business here with our consent agenda, which consists of minutes from the October 25, 2022 meeting. So
Mayor, move the town council approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. So at this portion of our meeting, this is a call to public. So if anyone in the public is interested in addressing town council, you may do so in person, or you can call in. We only have David Knight and Boyd up there on the board so far virtually. Anybody interested in addressing council? Okay, so we'll keep the phone line and the floor open in case people want to join us and make comments to council on matters not already on the agenda. So with that, I would turn to mayor and council reports, comments. Anybody want to form the council?
I just extend a congratulations to the Basalt Longhorns.
Oh, yeah, big.
Well, maybe you know who they're playing, but they are playing this Saturday
Yeah, they won against Woodland Park and they're playing Eaton.
at Eaton.
Yeah,
At
at Eaton.
And Eaton's the defending
near-
state champs, so hopefully they continue to do their
I was
thing.
trying to locate Eaton, and I was informed it was between Longmont, Greeley, and Wyoming. And I thought, oh, that's kind of disparate points on the map
It's almost due north of Greeley,
Near Greeley?
Wow,
like almost due north.
Oh, okay.
it's a haul.
Just under Windsor.
So, well, yeah, congratulations, and we had a nice chance to talk to the coach on Saturday night. So I would like to offer a sincere thank you and shout out to our Basalt Education Foundation for yet another incredibly successful Taste of Basalt. These guys just killed it. It was amazing. At great personal sacrifice, I went and tested it out. It was all pretty good. I think many of us were overserved by the wines, but other than that, it was really, really excellent. So thanks to those guys. We had our council and staff represented there. I appreciate us all turning out and supporting that. It's a really worthwhile effort. So anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like
Peter?
to say thanks to the police department for being out and about on Halloween. It was really nice to see the bright and shiny presents, and I think kids that had interactions went really well, and I just thanks. Great job.
Go on, Greg. Thank you. So with that, then we will turn to our manager report.
Sure, yeah. Just one thing to share with you tonight. So tomorrow we'll kick off a meeting with staff, but then we'll roll out more of a plan for the logo update. So this is something we talked about that's in the work plan, and we've got a firm out of Fort Collins area that is going to help us with it, and it'll be a pretty exciting process where we'll actually try to get some local designers to participate in it too, and put their name in the hat. So more to come on that rollout, but we'll do the internal kickoff tomorrow, and we're looking at having a committee assembled that'll be an ad hoc committee similar to what we did for Basalt Forward. We'll tap into our citizen committees, and probably do citizens on there as well. But I don't know, maybe 7 folks or something along those lines. So should be good. It should take about 6 months or so for that whole process.
Great,
So,
excellent.
And is that our sleeping dinosaur logo?
Is it what?
The sleeping dinosaur.
Oh, okay.
Yep. That's right. And so that will, we still have our official seal, so that doesn't change. This is what we put on letterhead, we,
Yeah.
brand trucks with, our PowerPoints, presentations, those kind of things, so.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, is that right?
Yeah, that's
Okay, yeah, very good. So next order of business, presentations. First up is Basalt Mental Health Funding for Schools. So we have Anna Cole, and thanks Anna for coming. Good to see you.
You could, yeah, sit right there, that's great. Yeah.
So, and Anna, you.
I think Anna has a presentation that she'll share with us, so I think she can, just go ahead and kick off.
Great. I'm here to give you all updates on the money you invested in the partnership that we have with the Hope Center to have school-based mental health providers. If you remember, the town of Basalt's contribution funds one full FTE that we've got placed at the elementary school because we also have funding that funds 2 positions through Eagle County at the middle and the high school. And so, this is a really challenging area for us, knowing that kids need additional higher intervention mental health services than what we as an education institution really have the funding or expertise to provide. So really are grateful for these kinds of partnerships to allow us to really increase access to kids and families for mental health services, and have just found a really innovative and reliable partner in the Hope Center. They've really leaned into their school-based programming. Just today, their annual report for the school-based programming came out with really some of the data I'm going to share with you about Basalt Elementary School. They also have that for the middle and high school, so I'll make sure to get that to you all. I'm sure that the team at Hope Center is probably sending that your way as well. But to get the bigger picture of what those school-based services look like, at least in the Roaring Fork schools and then some of the kind of charter schools that they also serve, it's an interesting overview. But just want to let you know kind of where that money went and what the impact looked like. Let's cruise through. And I'll go a little fast because I think a lot of this was in your packet. Is that right? Okay, so our goal is really to make sure that we can increase access, especially in rural communities. Hoping schools can be hubs of services. Next slide. Okay, so every 2 years in the fall, we do a really comprehensive survey with the students called the Healthy Kids Colorado Survey. It's fascinating. If you're interested in public health data, you can look at our public health region by going online, just looking up Healthy Kids Colorado Survey. We're screened per school, but you can see kind of our health region that includes Garfield, Pitkin, Eagle, I think up into maybe Steamboat a little bit, that you can look at some of the data from this last survey. What we're looking at is from fall of 2021, so we were right in the middle of COVID. Unfortunately, what I don't have to share with you yet, because we haven't gotten it, CU Anschutz runs this survey, and we haven't gotten trend data, which to us is really the most interesting because it'll show change over time, because the kids last took this right before COVID, the fall of 2019 before COVID. So to compare it to 2021 is really interesting. You can look at more specifics. Again, you can search it per region. I'm happy to come back if you ever want to look at the trend data when we get it. We can look at it unique for the town of Basalt, because we run this survey at Basalt Middle School and Basalt High School. So if you want to know, it's a great finger on the pulse of how are the kids doing. Everything from mental health to pro-social activities, do you participate in sports, to drug and alcohol, to perception of availability of drugs and alcohol in their community. So there's really interesting indicators in there. Happy to share that information with you if that would be helpful. But just pulled out a couple of pieces around mental health. This is really around pieces around depression, suicide, and we can look at the next slide as well. Similar questions with the middle school students. I think really what I want to draw this is just that we really have concerning issues about kids' mental wellness right now. In terms of their health, I think we tend to be a little higher risk than the state. I think certainly for us as educators, these kind of data with kids who have an adult for help with a serious problem, we take that personally, that we want to be those trusted adults for kids, so we see a lot of room for growth here. So this is just a good kind of a temperature check, and definitely we use it when we're trying to structure partnerships to provide interventions for kids. So we can go to the next one. As a school district, when we try to look at a really comprehensive social emotional learning plan, that's a little jargon here, that's what SEL stands for, is social emotional learning. We really think about all these different layers, and this is kind of our current Roaring Fork School District plan to have comprehensive social emotional learning. And you can see you all are number 9, these aligned community partnerships to really help increase access for kids and families to services and resources. Next slide. So here's kind of where we're at right now. You all have invested $100,000 over this last fiscal year for one full-time school-based mental health clinician. We contract with the Aspen Hope Center for that service in their school-based programs, and we have that person staffed at Basalt Elementary because, again, we blend the funding for Basalt with Eagle County to make sure that all our kids in the Basalt schools have access to a school-based mental health provider. Next slide. So some of this is, there's more in the annual report that we just got from the Hope Center, so I'll definitely share that with you. I think some of the interesting things you can see just about that elementary school provider, you'll see the kind of initial assessments, which are pretty comprehensive assessments of kids. The social emotional check-ins are really the heart of the work, and those are kind of sessions anywhere from like 20 to 45 minutes where kids are really getting, how are you doing, what's going on, where are you at? There's family sessions, which I think is an area that we're really looking to grow, especially at the elementary school. So much in our elementary and middle is really that kid and wrapped around their family and working together. And you can also see, I think another area that at the elementary school we're really leaning into is on group work with bringing kids together to work. And what that looks like at elementary school is things like anger management groups, kids with like pro-social friendship groups, those kinds of mental health services that we do at lunch or at different times during the school day. I think it's really interesting that at the elementary school our data swings pretty high with our boys. I think in a lot of ways with elementary we see behavior as an indicator of what's going on in the little kids. If you watch the trajectory of usage of our school-based mental health as kids get into the high school, it evens out and maybe leans a little more heavy towards girls accessing services. Additionally, what you see kind of even out over time, and again, you'll see this when I share that, which will have to be in follow-up, the Hope Center's annual report. But the demographics served by the time we hit the high school swings more where our Hispanic Latinx kids are accessing services more than our Anglo kids at the high school level. Some of that has to do with language access. We know that in our community we have a lack of mental health providers who speak Spanish, and Hope Center is no different, though I will say that they've done an amazing job with finding bilingual mental health providers, holding on to them, and also starting, especially this year, a couple of really interesting programs to grow our own bilingual mental health providers. So that's been really exciting that this year we've had more bilingual interns and folks working for Hope Center who are homegrown and kind of training their way up. So it's exciting for us in seeing that too. So I think next slide. In addition to the numbers, I think some of the things that we in the schools feel that having clinical mental health providers in the schools really helps. Certainly to increase access. I think for our school counselors who we do fund internally, being able to right across the hallway consult with a mental health provider has been so reassuring to our school staff to feel like there's someone else that's an expert that's checking in on kids and making sure that they're okay and that they're safe. I think that's the thing that anybody who's worked with kids, we really don't want our staff to carry the weight of being concerned about a kid, and having these clinical mental health providers in the schools has really helped for consultation and really team-based decision-making and supports for kids. We've had an increased response time for school-based suicide assessments, which is just sad to say that that's a thing that we do now, but we do that a lot. We'll do our staff, from our teachers to counselors and sometimes even bus drivers, coaches are trained in suicide awareness, and then some of them, if they feel comfortable, in suicide screeners that would then escalate to a proper assessment with the Hope Center to really make sure that a kid is safe. And so we've really seen the ability to have an increased response to that if a kid is really showing concerns. And then I think one of the other pieces that's been really exciting over the last couple of years of this work is the reduced stigma around accessing mental health services. And for, on my side of things, when I'm looking at funding and staffing, it's very clear to us who works for the district and who we're funding internally and who's a partner. But for the kids, it's seamless. They just see those Hope Center providers as another person in the school that's there, that's part of the team, that's looking out for them, that they can just walk in and talk to. So it's been, I think, had a profound impact on just the normalizing that kind of help for kids. Those providers are busy. They're really, really busy, which is also why a lot of them like school-based work instead of more clinical practice. I think they like the pacing and it's a busy day in the schools. So yeah, I think that's it on the slides. Yeah, so would love to know if you all have questions, if there's more information you would like about this investment.
Questions for Anna, Ryan?
I do have a couple of questions. The first two slides of the percentages of those surveys, I see we're about same with the state. Is that about the national average too? I'm like, those suicide numbers are mind-blowing.
I'm not sure where we stack up as Colorado against state. That's a great question. And I don't know that we have comparables like to national
Like the middle
surveys.
school one's even scarier
The
because
middle one's
it's
really
saying
scary.
1 of 5 have considered and 1 out of 10 or more than that.
And when you run those into numbers, and that's, it'll be 68 kids, something, it's pretty hard data
Yeah.
for our teachers and staff to look at. It's pretty heavy, and it
Very
kind of
heavy.
freaks everybody out in a really, really big way. It makes me so grateful for these kinds of partnerships, because I think this is the work that certainly as educators, and we don't really know what to do about this or how to intervene. We know that it's important that we're there and we're consistent, but in terms of, is a kid actually, this kid seems really concerned and dysregulated and off kilter, safe to go home, that's a call that we don't feel comfortable making. So to have these partnerships has been just, I think, essential when we see this kind of data. We think about wrapping around kids and families, and certainly, making sure their school-based mental health is one solve. There's so many things. This is an indicator of, I think, many other things going on with kids and families and society and all the things that I know you guys see. But it's been really hard data to look at. And it replicates. We have some internal school data. We have like a survey called the Panorama School Survey. If you have kids, they're going to take it probably year before Christmas. We do it every year, and it does have some depression indicators, and it tracks, like the data tracks, which is scary.
And I had a question about the Relationship Hope Center and how that's working. I guess the basis for the question is, we're going to, if this is a good form, I guess the question is this really a good workable formula? Are they self-direct Hope counselors, or do they interface with the school administrative staff and the principal? Is that working, and is that a viable model for us that are in the future? Going forward?
Great question. Yeah. So, my response would be like an emphatic yes, especially, I think the one piece still tinkering with is what it looks like at elementary. And I think we're starting to push more into family and group work, just knowing that it's really hard to work with that 7-year-old for 45 minutes with mental health, it's kind of impossible. I think, but I think in terms of partners, the Hope Center has been incredibly innovative, responsive, creative with us, kind of tenacious about their skill set with staffing. We all know how hard it is to staff basically anybody, anywhere right now. Their ability to maintain continuity of service, even when they lose people, has been just an incredible, reliable partner in this space. And I feel like when we're trying to tinker with different service lines at entry level, they're very supportive, very collaborative. And then when it comes to middle and high school, I think one of the really cool things is that we actually have Hope Center provider. We talk about the consultation. We have regular meetings with school, kind of what we would call student support staff. So everybody from nurse to a principal to a school counselor that meet regularly to kind of talk about kids who are bubbling up for a variety of reasons for different needs. And when appropriate, and then there's all sorts of privacy pieces that we bring in. The Hope Center providers are part of that consultation, of that collaboration. And so it's pretty powerful to have that tool in our kit. And not that it doesn't, not that it's sticky and there's not some challenging pieces. But I think as an organization, the Hope Center has really invested in a program director for the school-based programs who's on-site, hands-on, helping to kind of build these relationships, who knows our schools well. They really invest in relationships. They really invest. I think what we love also is that clinical mental health provides a whole groundswell of their own support and its own clinical supervision. That as a school district, we don't even know that world. I don't really even know what that looks like. And they provide all that. So I think in some respects, it's kind of a best of both worlds, that their clinical providers get this deep support from the center team on kind of the technical, how to do the work well, how to, I don't know, all the things mental health providers do is really not my world. And then from the school side, those folks really come integrated in our school systems as a member of that team. And so it feels to us really powerful. And it's interesting when I talk about this partnership in regional, I tell you, regionally, we've got our Field 2 that's looking at this model and trying to bring the Hope Center there to do our work. We've got all kinds of districts just paying attention to what's going on in Royal Park schools with the Hope Center, because this is pretty powerful work. I think the kind of blended funding that we're able to do because of the generosity and the commitment and that council like you guys have for the work makes it a lot more possible and feels more sustainable than a lot of those funding streams. So I can't just say about how impactful this relationship has been during a time that feels, I think, unprecedented for a lot of us in terms of mental health and where kids are. It's a strange reality that I think we don't generationally understand what they're really exposed to social media, what they're on screens. It's a really strange world, and I think it's doing some interesting things to their mental wellness.
Yeah, and they do like in sort of screening, do they help?
We have absolutely. We have a district mental health meets monthly, and it's kind of an all-comers. Like anybody doing anything on mental health comes from our school-based health providers to school counselors to school social workers to the Hope Center teams. And what's great about that is we build a schedule based on what providers and our school-based folks are seeing as needed. And we actually have our upcoming meeting next Friday, and then the following in December, Hope Center is going to run a suicidality training next Friday for our staff, and then they're doing anxiety intervention for our staff in December. There were topics that we asked for, and they're our local experts. So they're coming in to do a training that sure is for like some of the providers will be there, but it's even broader to some of our kind of services folks within the district.
Thanks very much. And I can speak for council. This is like very high priority for us, and this is really, critical stuff. So, we're making more money on the tax than we'd ever hoped to. So, we'll be there for you for future years. So, thanks for coming.
Thanks so much. My first grader is utilizing Rivis in elementary school.
Amazing.
He just needs some extra supports with some things, and
Great.
it was really nice that Ms. Lowski just said, hey, we have this available, and he loves meeting with Abby. He just loves her.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
I appreciate the work. Thank you very much.
That's the point. That's awesome.
Makes a
Great.
difference.
Well, thanks for your collaboration. It means a lot. Feel again like we're not alone looking at that. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
Thanks for getting that on for us. So, takes us to next item. That's this item. Under council actions, we got 6B. Do we? To 7A. So, our next item is Resolution Number 59, Series of 2022. Resolution of the Town Council of Basalt, Colorado, adopting the annual budget for the school year beginning January 1, 2023, ending December 31, 2023, and summarizing expenditures and revenues for each fund. Doug,
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, so I'll just kick off and I'm going to hand it over to Doug. The reason that we have this in front of you tonight is after our presentation, we had noticed the budget to be presented again on this date, so I wanted to make sure we were just following that notice. If you recall, last year, we had shifted the way that we approved the budget to be more in accord with our charter. So in the past, we've done it by ordinance and we've done 2 readings. The charter really dictates doing it by resolution. And so the reason that we wouldn't ask you tonight to approve all of these is we don't get some final information from the counties with regard to the assessed valuations on property to be able to get at what our final pre-tax would be for the budget. So we would ask on both of these resolutions tonight that you continue them to the December 13th meeting. We'll go for approval at that time. But the value in seeing this tonight is you pretty much here have a complete budget at this point. A lot of work has been done since you saw this in October, and the entire book is now put together. And we have our work plan integrated as we have been doing the last few years, and the numbers are updated. So at the beginning of the resolution here, there's a couple bits of information that were asked for at the last meeting. So Doug, if you want to kind of take them there and let them know what you did.
Sure. Yeah, I think, there's really no fundamental difference between the actual revenue and expenses previously approved to the council. It's a de minimis difference. What was different were the fund balances that were used. When this was prepared, I used the numbers that Christie had from the last budget presentation. I just rolled those forward. That would have been a year ago. And they have since been obviously changed. What happens in a year, right? What happens in 12 days. So the fund balances are updated for the actual results for the audited financials for 2021. And what we're projecting for 2022 as ending fund balances. So it proves out to be that 60 days from now, forecasting, we should have $33.5 million in our fund balances. And that'll be dry powder going into 2020.
How much?
33.5. And just looking at our cash balances today, I feel very comfortable in not reaching that number. If anything, it'll be a little higher. Okay, so that's fundamentally the difference. Dieter, I think you had mentioned, or someone did, it might have been you, right? Looking at a 10-year summary of our sales tax receipts.
That's right.
Right. So,
Well, anyways.
so I pulled from the 2021 financials. It's there every year. There's the back there, and it's chock full of information, demographics for the town. But included in the packet here are first of all, this is a summary of the fund balances that are presented, and then secondly, the sales that show our general sales tax, our open space sales tax, and not, and really what the sales are being generated by industry over the last 10 years. So I think it was pretty interesting looking at down. This is new to me too, just looking at the demographics of the town. There's not been a meaningful increase in population for Basalt, but the per capita income has increased dramatically, and actually also the unemployment hasn't been. You would think back 10 years ago, 08, 09 was some rough times. Really didn't affect us at 10 to that as far as financial results. So I mean, that's pretty much what I have. I think what you're going to see book, the budget number is a lock. I feel like absent any other comments anyone would have on council or the public. And
Is others has internet sales on that sales schedule?
the Amazon and all those other.
Yeah.
And we just got our sales tax receipts. We just got our receipt today, so we're pacing a really strong number for 2022. So that's why I feel very comfortable that the fund balances that I'm looking at won't be breached. So that's just sort of like the headlines on where we're at right now.
Cool. Questions for Dieter, you still on?
No, we can't be. They're Bolton.
Just ask.
But we put him on another committee finally.
Somewhere.
Great, well, questions of Doug or, we'll take action on this resolution tonight.
Mayor, I move the town council continue resolution number 59, series of 2022, December 18th, 2022 meeting.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
All right, moved and seconded, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. Any, no opposed, so,
We do the same thing on the other one.
I assume so on,
Mayor, I move town council continue resolution number 60, series of 2022, December 13th, 2022 meeting.
Second.
okay, moved and seconded, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're back to second reading wireless communication facility. So this is a public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 20, series of 2022. Ordinance of the Town Council of Town of Colorado approving amendments to the Municipal Code, Section 16-191, wireless communication facilities. Jeff and James, so just let us know where you are.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will keep it relatively brief. This is an ordinance that amends the wireless communication facilities regulations and the temp code. Just a quick background. 2019, the FCC adopted some orders that had the effect of preempting state and local regulations of wireless communication facilities in different respects. This is really done from a policy perspective to early deployment of 5G network. And it basically said that small cell facilities of things like 5G would be permitted in all zone districts, and that anything that's not a tower would be permitted use in public rights of way. And so at that time, in response to it, the town adopted some regulations to mitigate its potential impacts to like procedure for processing applications, and basically to ensure that we could live as best possible with this federal preemption. Since that time, there have been changes to those FCC orders. There's also been some bad practices that have emerged, and also some new areas where we think we could beef up the code to better protect important assets found, like Midland Corridor, certain historic properties. We come up with some height regulations, more design requirements, obligations to co-locate facilities to just avoid the proliferation of communication facilities all over town. A couple slight procedural changes in there as well to allow for the use of a master license agreement by someone that's coming to locate wireless communication facilities. And on first reading, I went through some of that stuff in a bit more detail. I'm not going to go through it again. But if there are any other questions, I can answer them at this time. This is a public hearing, so we should take public comment.
Yeah, thanks. Being hearing, I would see if there's any public comment, none from the public attendance. It appears no one has called in virtually. So questions of council for town attorney? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move the town council adopt ordinance number 20, series of 2022 on second reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Pam, please call the roll.
These two votes down here. Thank you. Okay, let's begin with Dieter Sandberg.
Yes.
David Knight.
Yes.
Angela Anderson.
Yes.
Ben Drummond.
Yes.
Elise Hoddle.
Yes.
Ryan Slack.
Yes.
And Bill King.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay. Good job on that. Next item is hearing the first reading for ordinance number 21, 2022, an ordinance of the Town of Colorado approving amendments to the Municipal Code, Section 8-4, Schedule 2, Vehicles and Traffic, Special Hazard. James.
It is a public hearing ordinance that would approve of updates to the chart we have in section 8-4. And the chart is entitled Schedule 2. The chart includes limits that are in the town, as well as the speed limits and street parking requirements for those public streets. And the proposed amendments add all of the streets in Cypress Meadows and Willis, as well as Southside, Stotts Mill, and Basalt Vista, because since the last time the chart was updated in the code, we had all those streets dedicated as public streets. The proposed amendments also make some street-specific adjustments, and some of the specifics around those are they allow for some on-street parking on the outside of the loop of Rockport Court, which is in the Uprun area. It also prohibits parking on the north side of East Cody Lane, and this is due to fire and emergency service access. They're still able to run the south side of East Cody Lane. And other provisions that are included in the amendments to the chart include that the loose in the single-family residences of Cypress Meadows would be a snow route for public works ability to plow. The draft language also proposes that the town manager have the ability to adjust administratively this chart to help figure out some situations that come up from time to time on the street circumstances. The police department and public works have reviewed the proposed adjustments and are good with the adjustments. So this evening, this is a public hearing, so staff will be asking any questions that you have of staff on the amendments, taking public comments, and then bringing council to discussion. If you're comfortable to approve the ordinance on first reading.
James, this is a public hearing. We have nobody physically present to this council being calling in. I see. So, questions of council for James or the chief or anyone? So, good work on sorting this thing out with Run Court. Is that the name of the street?
Yeah,
correct. Yeah, that came to a good amicable resolution. So, good work to staff on them. So, if there are no questions or comments, I would be to entertain motion to approve ordinance 21 on reading.
Mayor, I move that the town council,
Did we do it?
yeah, there's no.
Okay, okay, just make sure.
Mayor, move the town council approve ordinance number 21 series of 2022 on reading and continuance of the hearing and second reading for November 22nd, 2020.
Second.
Moved and seconded, Pam.
Absolutely. Let's begin with David Knight.
Yes.
Thank you. Angela Anderson. Lynn Drummond.
Yes.
Elise Hot.
Yes.
Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Bill King.
Yes.
And Dieter Schindler.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Great, thank you. That takes us to the next item, is resolution number 61, series 2022. This is approving professional service agreement with 110% Inc. Michelle.
Good evening. This is a resolution to approve a contract with 100% Inc., which is probably the best name of a consulting firm I've ever heard. They are a firm that does long-range planning, financial, and for maintenance of parks in particular. They function internationally. They've done a ton of work in Colorado as well, in the smaller areas. The request is based on the fact that the Post Committee has gone through the implementation list of the 2013 Post Master Plan, and generally we've accomplished almost everything in the master plan. So as part of moving forward and trying to plan what the next master plan for Post would look like, the group had agreed that they wanted an assessment of where we are financially in being able to maintain our existing assets, and where we're staff-wise as well, before we start making big ideas about creating either new facilities or just improving what we have. What else is in there? And so that's kind of the basis of this request.
This is also a work plan item for 2023.
So basically the focus here is that these guys help us anticipate capital budgets for repair and maintenance and capital replacement and put together financial plan to make sure we got the bucks to, our parks and trails, and that's it.
Basically, we do 20% of the post budget goes to maintenance.
Yeah.
So is that gonna be enough when you figure how many more parks there are now?
And being a smaller municipality, we don't have a landscape architect on staff like some of the other municipalities around us do, so we need that assistance in figuring out how long is the irrigation system good in each department, should we be replacing the grass with something else, how long is the lifespan of the playground, and those sorts of things. And that way when we go down the road, we don't have a giant year where we're hit with a huge reinvestment number. We also are negotiating how many members we have and how we're contracting out any extra services.
Where is this from?
The owner is being Salida.
So partially funded by Post, partially funded by Public Works, that's in the budget. And at the end, I know it's sort of an evaluation, but is it sort of, and if I were you, I'd tackle these big projects for those recommendations, or is it just sort of here's what we got, here's the cost to maintain it?
It's both a long-range financial plan as well as its assessment. So if we have a park that's aging and it needs immediate care or more finances dedicated to that, they'll make those recommendations. And all of this is coming because we have all of these new facilities coming on board between the pool and the Basalt Park and whatnot, and figuring out, do we have enough staff to adequately maintain these to the level of service that we're all expecting, or do we need 2 more people? Do we need 10? Are we good? That sort of thing.
Is this a sole source or an art?
This is a cooperative procurement source. Thing at Grand Mountain Park is they're going through a master plan process. And this firm is actually there, and you're welcome to go and check them out on Monday, the 14th, from 6 to 7:30 at the Eagle County Building is the Grand Mountain Map Planning Workshop. And so we were able to go through that procurement code and same exact prices. And actually what's really interesting, your pricing plan is the same nationally. This is a service they've developed for the nation to help monitor parks. This is a common thing, apparently.
Okay. And I just one more is what's the duration of this? Like when do we get results? When do we get answers? Next budget cycle?
No sooner. I think it's only a 6-month process. 6 months.
Okay. Questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion for resolution 61, series of 2022.
I move the town council adopt resolution number 61, series 2022.
Second.
It's been a second, so moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Mr. Mayor, sorry to interrupt, but because David remotely and it's not just a procedural motion, we should have a roll call.
Okay.
Okay, happily. Let's begin with Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Elise Huddle.
Yes.
Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Bill King.
Yes.
Peter Schindler. David Knight.
Yes.
Angela Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Get home and
Record?
watch out the TV.
Still 3 minutes.
Should we do the quick part over the